Hey, we are on the road driving from Chiang Mai down to Ayutthaya at the moment. Went up to Chiang Mai for a fight, and on the way up we stopped at the old jockey gym, which is now Skarbowski Gym,
in
Bangkok, and trained with Silapathai, who might be a familiar name right now because Lawrence Kenshin just put up a video breaking down he says he's a very tricky fighter, which upon watching his fights I didn't think he was super tricky, but standing in front of him I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely an accurate word for Silapathai. He has this like really nasty teep. It's like teep and kick is basically his main bread and butter, but the way he gets to it, like the way he constructs everything around it, is just beautiful. He has this head kick. He kicked Weirapon in the head like 1,000,000 times in this one video, and he was showing me how to do this head kick, and Kevin was watching me do it, and then he's watching Silapathai do it, and he's like, you're not doing this kind of like it's
a little bit of a question mark kick.
A little bit of a question mark kick, but you wouldn't be like, that's a question mark kick. I wouldn't be like that. But when he was doing it, it's just so beautiful and so fast. And Kevin watched him do it on the bag a couple of times, and then Kevin's just like, fuck, that is so beautiful. And Sylvie like looked at him kind of like surprised. Like, I don't think that a lot of these guys, sometimes when I train with them and we kind of geek out over how beautiful or powerful a technique is, they like haven't had someone
that was that
express how awesome
that was that very
is.
beautiful moment in the Samson session that you filmed.
Yes.
When you were like saying how beautiful his Muay Thai was.
Samson is definitely a power fighter, so I don't think that he maybe in his life has ever been told that something he's doing is beautiful, but it's
like ever
fucking beautiful. It's amazing.
So we were filming for the library at Jockey Gym.
Yeah, so what's kind of really cool, we're filming for the patron library where we're trying to not only preserve these techniques of these golden age fighters who are kind of aging out of training. Silapathai is only 45, and he was a trainer for a really long time, but he hasn't been training people in a while. It just, I don't know, like, unless these guys own their own gyms or are at gyms or something, they kind of cycle out of training, and then they're not necessarily passing on really incredible knowledge and technique. So trying to like capture that and document it, as well as just like, we do these long form videos so that you can really experience the men themselves. Like, we don't really want to do a highlight of like, here are the 9 things that he does, but really just seeing how it unfolds and what these people are like. I thought Silapathai was awesome. He refers to himself in the third person, which in Thai is not that weird. But because it's his fighter name, it was actually really sweet. But he came to Jockey Gym, which is where we were training with him when he was 13 years old. So like 32 years ago, basically my entire life ago.
And he's been at that gym.
He came to Jockey and started training and fighting. And he was talking about how the ring used to be much higher. And he kept making this like it was at my chest, which when he's 13, he's not the size he is now. So the ring was not as high as he thinks it is. In his memory, maybe.
He was there his whole life.
He was there his whole life. But it's this incredible thing of like, he's standing in this space that he grew up in. Yeah?
Yeah, literally.
It's like, I came here when I was 13. It's kind of amazing.
His technique, I've never seen a female fighter, or really any fighter, that seemed to have their fighting style defined by using like 5 tools.
Yeah.
He has a toolbox of how to fight a female fight. Mm-hmm. He has his the teep to the legs and the body. He has that beautiful rear kick.
Yep.
He has a head kick.
He has a spinning back elbow that's actually in context rather than being like, I'll throw one in as like a style point.
Yeah, that's like his close range weapon. Yeah. But it's almost like out of those few tools, his entire style, like very seldom do you get that feeling. And like you were saying afterwards, that of all the legends, he trains the way he fought.
Yeah, it's sometimes when I go and I train with these guys, they have absolutely beautiful, very well-rounded toolboxes or techniques that they're showing, but you won't see a lot of what they're teaching in their actual old fights because they ruminate on things and they kind of like steep in these techniques over time, and they come up with things after they've retired. Chart Chai is a really good example of this. Very, very skilled and accomplished boxer, but what makes his style now so incredible came after he was a boxer, so he didn't actually use it in his own fights, although his fighters use it now, and it's really awesome. When you look at a Silapathai fight and then you look at Silapathai training, they're the same thing.
It's like
you could do like
travel.
a screen and screen, and it's
Totally.
like the same thing,
Totally.
which is really cool.
Also interesting in that session was the Arjan Pipa teep.
Yeah, so
Never seen that really before.
So Pipa is this trainer who trained both Silapathai and Sanchai. They're not the same age, but they're in Muay Thai. They're really not the same age, but in the world they're not that far apart. They're maybe like 7 or 8 years. But they have this same. I call it the monkey teep.
In 600 meters, turn right.
Turn right at this. Master K taught it to me way back in the day in his basement, which is where you bring your rear teep, but you keep your foot sideways, so your knee is like bent out. And to me, it's like a monkey kick. I don't know. It makes me think of like a Hanuman monkey kick. But he and Sanchai all do this.
Hanuman teep.
Yeah, but it's really powerful, and it's really hard to see. Like when he kicks and when he teeps, it looks exactly the same. So you're kind of like, I don't know which one it's gonna be, and his opponents are like, I don't know which one it's gonna be.
Totally. I think I feel like I want to go back there and just train that teep.
Just that teep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after we filmed with him, we came up to Bangkok.
Yeah, so that was on our way up into Chiang Mai. So we stopped in Bangkok and trained with him at Jockey. And I met this young woman there who, when I first got to Jockey, she whined to me like 100 times. And I thought she was just really polite or something. Like, it was kind of odd. But after my session, she came up and was like, I follow you on Facebook. I'm a huge fan. She's been training. She's Thai.
Which is unusual.
She's been training and fighting in Muay Thai for 10 months and has like 3 fights.
I think that's interesting.
When she like mentioned who she's been fighting as a complete beginner, I know these names. Like, she is not fighting other beginners. She's fighting really established fighters. But what's kind of cool about this is that that was my path too. And there's like video of me doing this. So by her being a fan and by her seeing this precedent of like, this is kind of something that people do or something that's like part of the path, you have to go right here, was really cool.
I don't think she's doing that because of you, though.
No, that's because that's the structure of
Turn
it.
right.
For size and things.
Yeah.
But it's not like, I think I've heard from Westerners who experience fighting someone who's way above their level early, that they think that their gym's not taking care of them or that it's like unfair, any of these things, but it's actually
sometimes that's the case.
That is the case sometimes, but sometimes it's just part of the like kickstarting, like who you're available.
If you're a Westerner, you should not be fighting world champions in your second fight, Sylvie. Come on now. What I found interesting about her is that she's a Thai girl who is following you through social media.
Yeah.
We don't really come in contact with that very much.
Yeah.
Not interesting to you?
No, Soma was like that, except I guess she saw me at stadiums because we were both in Chiang Mai.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's like a college student, this girl. She's really cool. So then we came up to Chiang Mai for first Chocolate fought, and I cornered for her on Thursday night. And then I fought the next night, so I fought last night at Taipei. And I fought Nong Benz, who I fought... How many times? I think this was the 5th time. She's a really good fighter in the north. She's a little bit bigger than me, and she's been on this like really nice ladder climb lately. She beat Tananchinook, who is a very long time world champion who I've fought a bunch of times and have only beat once. But Tananchinook is really smart in how she wins fights. She's very difficult to like get the lead on in order to win the fight. And we watched this fight online when Nong Benz fought Tananchinook, And Nong Ben's just got this incredible 30-second sprint of clinching that just rocketed her into the lead in the fight, and then Tanachinook couldn't catch up. It was so unexpected. I did not think Nong Ben's was going to win that fight going into it, and then upon watching it, it was actually super informative to me about seeing Tanachinook's style when I'm not the one fighting her, so I could kind of understand and get new ideas about how to fight her in the future.
She won that fight definitively too.
She won.
I would say not quite a blowout, but kind of a tie blowout in a way.
Yeah, like Tanachinook was trying to catch up in round 5 and just could not take over. Which I love when Tanachinook fights really hard, especially late in fights. She doesn't usually have to with me, so I don't get to see it very much. She usually has the lead the whole time with me. But that was a really fun fight to watch. And then last night, I'm very certain I won this fight, but I did not get the win on decision, which is unusual. I don't see a lot of really bad decisions in Thailand. And I can also see why it went the way it went. I started dancing off the 5th round because I was way ahead, and I started too early. And so by doing that, if that had been a completely normal fight, like nothing interesting about this fight, I think it would have been fine. But because there's an interest in, I've beat Nong Ben's in all of our fights before, so there's an interest in there being a win on her.
In 600 meters,
so that when we fight
slight
again,
right.
Gambling is more, balanced, or?
I don't know what you're saying.
Okay. I left the window open, basically, by making this decision that in other fights might have gone differently.
Slight right.
So I understand why I lost that fight, but the benefit of it is being able to have a rematch.
Well, this happened 2 years ago at the same stadium where you beat by Fern pretty solidly, but there was a little tiny technical dimension of the fight where the judges could have given it to her, and they did, and there was a big backlash, like people lost money who were betting on you, and then 6 months later, was it, or so, there was a headline, did Sylvie really lose to Bai Fern
for the rematch
in Muay Thai? Yeah. There's a thing where they like to create the rematch, and even at the end of this fight, what's his name, came over to you and was like, can you rematch her? Do you remember?
Pinoy, yeah. One of the guys who helps run the stadium, as I was leaving, was like, Sylvie, okay, rematch mine? And I was like, yeah, for sure. Like, right now, let's like get back in the ring.
But we've never had that before.
Of him saying rematch?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's okay. Like, it's a good experience. It was a really good learning experience for me in terms of like understanding how I left that opportunity open and how to close it in the future and that kind of thing. And Nong Ben's is an incredible fighter and a really good opponent, so there's really no downside to having another fight with her.
We should also emphasize...
Someone is super angry every time I say Nong Ben's name. I don't know what that is.
Really?
Yeah, there's like angry faces going across.
Okay. Maybe they didn't like that she won. We should emphasize, though, that you do not get bad decisions against you.
I do not get bad decisions.
Almost ever.
No.
There's like 200 fights, more than 200 fights in Thailand, and maybe 7 were pretty questionable.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that's very small. Yeah. It's like 3%.
I mean, even when I'm like, there is no way that decision is right, I can always find what the reasoning might have been.
Yeah, even
in this fight. And then you just learn from that. But
you kind of know something was fishy at the end because
it was weird.
Her camp would not look at you.
Yeah.
Right?
She has a trainer who really likes me, who I'm very friendly with, and he wouldn't look at me after the fight, which was very odd. It's very odd.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. Like, I didn't lose money on this. people I know didn't lose money. Like, this was not like a big, like, oh my God, there's huge consequence to losing this fight. So, it's all right. It's just a learning experience. Yeah. But I was saying in my post-fight update that it's nice to be able to laugh when your opponent's hand gets raised when you thought you won, rather than like being super pissed off about it for like hours afterwards, or being like mad or what did I do or whatever. It's just kind of like, that is what it is. So it was all right. What else?
I don't know.
So right now we're headed down to Ayutthaya, where we'll meet up with Diesel Noi. We saw him when we were coming home from my last fight, and we talked to him for a while, and filmed him going through this book that's is it 133? 132?
123.
123 best fighters in Thai history. It's this book that we picked up at Thai Samai. It was put together by a group. And so we had him go through page by page and just kind of talk about the fighters. And it starts from before his time and then extends to pretty recent. And we were like, just, say whether the people before him, we thought maybe he wouldn't know or something like that. He knew everybody in the book. And so we filmed him going through and talking about all these different fighters. And Diesel Noi is so funny and expressive in the things, the way he talks. And so we got help from people to have that translated, which is really incredible. And so we're putting it together now. But it's...
Well, that part's not translated.
What part was translated?
Oh, the only part that's translated is him talking about the state of Muay Thai.
So I asked him also about the state of Muay Thai, because people have heard about this, like, gambling has ruined Muay Thai, and, like, styles are changing in Muay Thai. And recently Sanchai was saying that, like, clinching is not old school Muay Thai, which I and Diesel Noi don't agree with. So we don't have the book part translated. That's long. That was like 45 minutes or something that he was going through that. But talking to him about the state of Muay Thai now has been translated. And
we're going to put that up on Patreon.
We'll put that up on Patreon when we have it all cleaned up and put together. But
what was that like for you, sitting there having him walk through history?
In the book?
Yeah, just sitting in there with him. What was that like for you?
Diesel Noi is such a, like, connected socially. Like, he knows everybody, and he's this, like, pillar in the Muay Thai community. And everywhere he goes, he's, like, the life of the scene or the party or whatever. So to hear his vision or his understanding of kind of the history of Muay Thai, just in terms of like who these fighters were and how they fought, and hearing what he loved about some fighters' styles or what he dismisses about others, wasn't super a surprise when I think about how Diesel Noi's heart is. Like, Diesel Noi is such a, like, I am going to walk through you fighter. But he really liked punchers. Like, a lot of the times when he was saying that he really liked a particular fighter, they were, like, forward boxing fighters. He's like the king of knees, but there aren't a lot of other knee fighters in that book. But the ones who were knee fighters, he was talking about how their knee styles were different from his, which is totally cool to hear.
What was it like for you, though, to be there?
It's like getting to talk to your, like, favorite uncle about his war stories or something.
War
like
stories,
talking about all the guys
like
in his regiment.
I like when he would get up and impersonate somebody.
Yeah, he would, like, stand up and start, like, doing what was so cool about someone's style.
Samrak.
So it's very funny when he talked about Samrak. He's like, he's impossible to fight. He's tall and he doesn't come forward. So, like, that combination is just a nightmare. He's talking about how relaxed Samrak was, which you can see when you watch Samrak's fights. He's like smoke or something. I don't know. He's very, very relaxed.
You getting any questions?
Tyler says, I saw that book at Thai Samai. It's super cool. It reminds me of baseball cards for some reason. Yeah, the way they like break down the kind of the stats of like where people are from and stuff is a little bit.
And what what we've done with our book is we basically had each page signed with everybody we worked with, so it's very kind of special too.
Yeah, when we meet these guys, we have them sign their photos, which is really cool. Kevin's getting it.
This was not planned. You got that, baby?
Yeah.
Here, baby. Show it. Show what it's like.
So, this is the book. Alright. And so it starts from probably the like 40s, you think? This guy, Diesel Noi, loved soup. He's one of the first fighters I've ever seen who had sakyan. Diesel Noi was like back in the day they all had them and then it changed. But he's one of the earliest in the book and he's totally got him. He's so badass. He just looks so awesome. He's the grandfather or uncle of Sagat. I think
this guy, did he say that? He was related to Sagat?
Yeah, he's Sagat's grandfather, I think. So you can see all these tabs. This is like people who we want to work with. And then we have little metal tabs that are people who we have worked with, and they've signed the book. See if I can find a signature. But they have, like, in Thai, a breakdown of the person's accomplishments and story, and then in English they have, like, where they're from, like, what their most awesome fight is, and stuff like that. So here's Berklerk. Berklerk is one of the winningest fighters of all time. It's his signature down there. From the Pinson Chai gym, he's like unbelievably
he's in the Muay Thai
technical.
library.
He's in the library with I think more than one video. He's got such slick style. There's my favorite, Karahat. Karahat and Diesel Noi are actually really good friends, and Diesel Noi was not super complimentary of Karahat's fighting. They are not the same style. Just very funny, but the way that Diesel Noi takes the piss out of his friends is very funny. So
we're gonna try. We go to Chiang Mai every month, right? So we're gonna try when we come back down to sit with Diesel Noi and interview him more and more. And get it translated and kind of build up a little bit of his biography.
Yeah, like a small oral history as we go, just piece by piece.
Yeah, and part of a larger project to do this with other legends.
Yeah.
To get them to tell their story.
Yeah.
And also reflect on contemporary Muay Thai, which people feel like Muay Thai is kind of like being lost in this generation. So to hear from the people who fought, right, baby?
Yeah, I'm amazed that men who are only in their 40s now are already like, I don't watch Muay Thai anymore. They're like, they're ex-fighters, that Muay Thai is their life, and they're like, I don't watch Muay Thai anymore because it's not, fun, or it's just changed. There's a lot of refrain from people kind of talking about how it's become predictable in a non-exciting way. But it's hard to know, like, what they were looking at when they were younger and how much of it is just, natural progression and changes in any sport, and then how much of it is actually being watered down or whatever.
But this is a project we're doing, right?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
Yeah. So, my Thai is now good enough that I can kind of conduct the interview of like getting these guys to talk about a piece of their history or kind of like progressively talking about their biography, and then getting help in the translation into English as part of the preservation of this legacy. Is that who these men are, to me, is as important as their technique.
So this is like an added dimension to the preserve the legacy mission, right?
Yeah,
and,
the like bio project.
And patrons, this is what they're supporting. Is this like we're gonna try to see if we can do more and more preservation, not just the library sessions, right?
This is the cool thing about Patron, is that by being able to support the process of traveling, seeing these guys, training with these guys, we're always able to keep doing more. Like, okay, now we're here, what else can we do? Like, we've made it here, that's the hard part, what else can we do to get more out of each of these things? And so it's basically this like evolving process of being able to create more content, come up with new ideas for different content, and then when you're in the space with these guys, and as I'm evolving and being able to speak with them more, or kind of understand more about what's possible, just jumping on it and like seeing what else you can get with it.
And a big thank you to Prin and who were the two people that
Prin and Pan.
Prin and Pan both volunteering.
Prin and Pan both helped with this translation, which not only is brilliant in getting the translation, but Diesel Noi is actually really hard to understand at times. He has like his own Diesel Noi way of talking, and so they each had their parents help them a little bit at moments.
No, one person had their parents help them.
Prin?
I think Prin, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But that's very funny to me. Like I'm amazed by how funny and how unique Diesel Noi is. So I like that in people helping with this project, they get to see that too, and trying to translate him.
Totally.
He's so amazing.
So we're going there now. Oh, do you have a question, baby?
Yeah. I don't know how to say your name. Hoyo, maybe? Hi Sylvie, just wanted to congratulate you on the Southpaw work. It's obviously improving every day. I wanted to ask, did you see the Sangmani Yodlek pet fight that happened a couple of days ago? I've been watching Muay Thai for a couple of years and couldn't understand that result for the life of me. Cheers from Brazil. I didn't see it, but people are very pissed off about it. Some people. It's one of these things where, like, fights may kind of have results that are unexpected for the rematch. Like
I think so,
that recent Gulab Dam Muay Thai fight, that definitely was a draw for a rematch, which is kind of business, I guess. Like, I didn't see the fight, so I don't know, like, how crazy of a decision it was.
But that's the feeling we had with
but that's the feeling like my fight last night. It was like, this is for a rematch, basically.
Yeah.
That fight could have been a draw last night.
That's true too.
You don't see a lot of draws
been weird, though,
outside of Bangkok. But she's Southpaw, so thank you in complimenting my Southpaw work.
I think your Southpaw has been coming along really nicely, baby. And this fight, you had you're training to get as close as possible, and I feel like you've made a leap somewhere.
I think that I felt more comfortable in this fight of like choosing when to go back to orthodox, because I was trying to do like body strikes or something, that instead of being like forced into it in a panic mode because I'm like responding to, like, reacting to something that puts me back in orthodox, I would choose to go into orthodox for a moment and then switch back out, which feels more Karahat like. But yeah, I've been working a lot on Southpaw stuff, and I've been working on this thing that Kevin and I are calling the Bramble Guard.
Bramble on.
The reason we call it the Bramble is because it's like this spike that to me reminds me of the like Sleeping Beauty brambles that the witch grows to like protect the castle. But the real reason is so that I can sing Led Zeppelin's Ramble On as Bramble On. It's like why I named it that way is so that when I'm training it I can be like, Ramble On, sing my song. But I think that last night was kind of the intro to really using that. I've been working on it for probably 2 months now, so including before my last fights against Nang Hong.
It's the first time you were in it.
But this like came in. And I'm still a little bit struggling with it because I felt like the upper body was doing it, but my lower body wasn't behaving the way that it should in the way that I train. But being able to do that under pressure and closing in against a much taller opponent and things like this just complicated. But it felt good to use it in context. And so when I go back and work on it now, I have that information from where it felt good and where it kind of fell apart.
Also, you've been doing 500 blocks a day.
Yeah, I've been doing back guard 500 blocks every day for over a month now, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. High repetition is definitely something that I use in my training as like a way to smooth over and like teach triggers.
Yeah, get in the deep rhythm. But
Yeah.
So we're going to go film with. Who are we filming with?
Oh dear.
You forgot his name.
Gong Samut. Gong Samut is one of the trainers at this gym in Ayutthaya. That's like a resort.
It's a new gym.
It's a new gym, but it's owned by this like very connected, very important dude in Muay Thai. So all these legends actually are on the wall on this like seat chart of who the Ajahn at this gym are. And we saw this guy when we went to talk to Diesel Noi last time. And he's definitely got that, like, you can tell when you see these guys who have, like, been in the game forever. He was training some little kids, so we're going to go do a session with him for the patron library today. So we're driving down from Chiang Mai. We'll be in Ayutthaya tonight and train with him, and then see whether we can stay in Bangkok overnight and maybe do another session tomorrow.
What session?
At Jockey.
What sessions?
With Ponsak Noi.
Is that his name?
Yeah. Yeah, so possibly 2 sessions on the way down after fight last night. It's kind of the system we have of like using the travel for fights to try to connect with all these people. And we've been trying to get, it just hasn't coordinated with time yet, but Lang Soan, who I love. Who's
gonna be incredible. He's kind of a hero for you.
I'm gonna like starstruck geek out when I see him and try not to, and it's not gonna look good because when I try to not geek out I end up just being like staring at the floor. He's up in Payao, which is near Chiang Mai, so we're trying to get him maybe on our next trip up. But it was really funny because when we trained with Silapathai on the way up, we were back in the car. It was after training with him, and we're driving up to Chiang Mai, and Karhat, who's a friend of Silapathai's, texted me, and he's like, I just talked to Silapathai. He says he's so tired from training with you. And I just told him, that's what you fucking get for training with Yotzian's student, referring to himself. He's like, that's what you get for training with one of my students, is you get really tired. Both Karhat and Gansak talk about how Lang Soan was a nightmare to fight because he just doesn't stop and he makes you so tired. So as a like honor of my teacher, I'm gonna try to make Lang Soan tired. I'm gonna try to have a moment of, I don't know, revenge fatigue or something.
He's one of the great knee fighters.
He's incredible.
Ever.
He's incredible.
He beat Karhat, what, 4 out of 5 times or something?
I think so.
Or, no, 8 times did they fight with?
They fought 8 times, but then like there's only a record of 5 of them, and Karhat only won, I think, 1 of them by cutting him.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how you beat me. So we have this like simpatico thing. Oh, good. I did say your name correctly. Oh, no, I did not. Don't worry about my name.
I can't read that. Sweet baby.
Thanks a lot for the answer. Don't worry about my name. Even Americans that I've met in person couldn't pronounce it correctly. Is it Brazilian? Why is it? I liked how you said it, even if it's not right. It's nice to know that people are pissed off there because the first 6 months of watching Muay Thai, I couldn't understand a single result. So I did a lot of research in order to know how to score, and when I saw the result of that fight, I thought, well, back to the drawing board. Nice to know that it was actually a controversial decision and it wasn't just my untrained Occidental eye that couldn't see what was going on. Yeah, there's definitely... One of the complaints, actually, from Golden Age fighters watching Muay Thai now is that they don't know who's winning because it could just be like looking to the promoter and that's going to be who's winning or whatever. So there's a change. There's a change a little bit in scoring, but whereas Samart says that there's a change in gambling, the way that Diesel Noi explains it is that there's a change in judging based on gambling. Yeah. But yeah, for the most part, I'm not super shocked by how decisions go. But every now and then you get like
every now and then there's something that's just, and it could be that we don't fully understand. Like when you were in Royette in that fight, you did not fully understand. We've been here 6 years. Mm-hmm. How detrimental having your head pulled down is in a neutral position.
Yeah, I fought in Royette against a girl who had like 7 kilos on me, and after the fight, one of the men who was in my corner said, you didn't lose on weapons, and what he means is that like in striking I was not outstruck point wise or anything like this, but that she was big, so when I would clinch her I kind of got swallowed a little bit, and she was yanking my head down, which I was not resisting hard enough. Like I should visually be resisting it and pulling myself up, and having my head down and not resisting it, like submitting to it basically, lost me the fight by like 5-1. Like it was not close, and it's like posture basically. So if you don't know that, like if you don't know that that looks so bad, you'd be like, I don't understand how I lost that fight. I totally outstruck her. You'll see that with Westerners who first come to Thailand, and they're just basically coming forward and like striking and off balance and all these things, and they're like, I outstruck this person, why did I lose? Because they don't understand that in Thai the aesthetic, balance, composure, control totally takes the cake in terms of how scoring goes here.
These head pulls were in neutral positions. They were in clinch tie-ups.
Yeah, like so she was not scoring other than the position.
It didn't even look like a bad position necessarily.
But
just the fact that your head was down.
But upon learning it, it made sense. It's like in fights, sometimes a fighter will take the other fighter's back, like they'll get behind them. And Kevin and I are always like, oh, like it's such a dominant position. And you can see on sometimes a Westerner who had their back taken, you can see on their face that they don't understand how bad that looks. Don't do that. Don't let someone take your back.
The point is, though, that you can be here a very long time in a lot of fights, and there's still dimensions of the aesthetic that you might not quite understand.
Yeah, or you don't understand how important it is.
How big it is. Yeah, how heavy it is. Because we knew all the time that if your head was pulled and your posture broken, it's not good.
Yeah.
But it's actually so not good that you could be blown out in a fight with no other factor happening.
Yeah. Adam says, that seems like it could be kind of soul-crushing to hear these legends say they're unhappy with modern Muay Thai. It is kind of a bummer, like when I ask them who they like now and they're like, nobody, that sucks. But it's also, I think, not that unexpected. Like if you talk to musicians, or people always talk about how the generation before was better. Like when things change, it's never for the better. But
well, come on now, baby.
I don't know.
You feel like something's being lost, no?
100%.
So
100%.
It's not like this is just old people talking about young people.
I'm saying that it's not like... I'm saying that if you talk to soccer players from 40 years ago, they don't think soccer players are better now. Like, it's... people always maintain a level of romance or superiority about like what was going on in the time that they understood what was going on and all these things. But I will say that when I watch Golden Age fighters, it looks nothing like modern Muay Thai. Like, it is not the same thing. I always use the example of music. It's like when you listen to classic rock, like 60s, 70s, like Zeppelin versus Justin Bieber, like that's not the same. It's not the same thing. And that there are merits to what's new and the changes and what's going on at the time that you're in. I still watch Muay Thai. I still love Muay Thai, but it's definitely difficult to see these changes where you're like my trainer, Crew New, is turning 45, and he's been doing Muay Thai like his entire life. So when there's a bad decision against one of his boys, he says something that I've heard these other men say. They're like, I've done Muay Thai my whole life. You think I don't know Muay Thai. So when I watch this fight, you think I don't know who won. Like, this is obviously wrong. And I think that's part of where they're coming from too, is they're like, I'm an expert, and then when I look at something and something unexpected like that happens, I'm not wrong.
It's not just the decisions, though. It's the
style.
That even specialized fighters in the past could do everything.
Yeah.
They had a fluency of techniques that was very wide.
Yeah. One of the things that Diesel Noi was saying when he was going through that book was that you would have your specialty, like, you would be very strong in punches, or you could be a knee fighter, or any of these things, but like getting to that specialty had all of this like storyline around it. You don't go straight to the like Avengers battle scene, like you actually have a story going on or something. And that seems to be something that I hear from a lot of these guys, is that it's not that way anymore, that fighters are more simple, and they don't bring out as many weapons to get to whatever they're known for. And Jen said that Jen Hong Tong, he's one of the twins who run the Hong Tong gym. There's Joe and Jen. They were known as Hong Tong Noi and Hong Tong Lek. He's the femur fighter out of the twins, and then Joe is kind of like a more Muay Thai fighter. And they both can do both, but you have your style that you like. And Jen was saying that he kind of gets bored watching fighters now because you know how they're going to win. And him saying that to me was really revelatory, because there are strengths, like Karahat has particular strengths. Nam Kabuan was known for his body throws. Diesel Noi obviously known for his knees. But the way in which they'll win is not predictable. Like, is Karahat going to win by cuts? Is it going to lose by being overwhelmed? Is Samart going to get tired? Like, all of these things make the fights really exciting, because there are so many elements that come into it, and now the elements are just simplified.
And I find this is something very interesting about your own fight path, that you had to develop a very simplified fight style in order to combat, at first, Thai girls who've had way more experience than you.
Yeah.
And then Thai girls now who are way bigger than you.
Yeah.
So you had to develop a very simple attack to simplify the fight game, so that you wouldn't fight on their turf, their technical turf. But now, especially since working with Karahat, there's this feeling of like, I want to deepen the technique to create fluency and not just win fights by reducing the number of moving parts, right?
Yeah. So, because I'm facing people who are so much bigger, I don't have the freedom to try a bunch of stuff. I don't have the
well, you feel like you know,
strength and confidence that comes from being the same size or bigger than somebody. And so I kind of was forced into simplified techniques and styles of fighting because I want to win. If I didn't want to win, whatever. I could have worked on all kinds of shit in this time, but I don't want to lose. Now I'm getting to a point where I can start experimenting with that more, even with the size, but not a lot. Its size is pretty significant. So it's...
Well, wait, I don't understand. What are you doing in moving towards Karahat, a female fighter, really?
In moving towards what Karahat is showing me, it's not like... It's hard to explain. Because he's teaching me how to read and how to have a conversation, when you're having a conversation with someone who is loud or like reticent or something, like you're trying to get someone, if someone's much bigger or they're evasive or something, that the ways that I know to fight someone like that are really simple. What Karahat is showing me is ways to like draw out an opponent's weaknesses or to kind of like force them to engage when otherwise you'd just be like, can Sylvie catch them and knee them kind of thing. That's basically been my style. Yeah. So instead of the story being, can Sylvie catch them, it's like, can I have consistent effect everywhere they are in the ring instead of like just when I get them on the ropes or just if I pry them into the middle. Yeah. And that's a long road. It's not going to be like, oh, in 5 fights I'm able to do this. It's like, in 4 years am I going to be able to do this?
Totally. But what's beautiful about it is that it mirrors the states of Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Is that Muay Thai is more simplified now.
Yeah.
For gambling reasons, to win, right?
People want to win, yeah.
But the golden age thing that you treasure is having true fluency. Mm-hmm. Not just a style that wins.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Which is maybe why in the golden age you could really have, like, everyone fighting everyone. It's so crazy when I talk to these guys because I will have not seen these fights, so I don't know. So I'll be like, Karahat, did you ever fight Hippie? Like, this would be the most amazing fight. Did this ever happen? Because it's my assumption that due to, like, promotions or whatever...
You've seen videos of
I had not when I asked.
Oh, yeah.
Like, due to promotions or whatever, that they wouldn't match them up or something like this, because that's kind of how it is now. And the answer is not like, yeah, we fought. It's, yeah, we fought 5 times. Like, it's crazy. They fought everyone.
And
multiple times. And had, like, back and forth records.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty incredible. And it's because of how they fought. Like, there was just so much going on that could affect a fight. Hi from New Zealand, from Awi. Hello.
Okay, switching gears, Vipassina. You went to your three-day Vipassina thing for the second time?
Yeah, so there's a meditation center in Pattaya, not far from where I live, that offers meditation retreats for a minimum of 3 days. You can stay as long as you want. But basically it's just a place to go and practice Vipassana meditation. The thing that makes Vipassana what it is that instead of focusing on your breath or trying to get into transcendental states or something like that, the objects you focus on are the mind and the body, and you just observe them all the time. All the time.
Without judgment.
In order to understand that they are not you. Like, there is a body, it's not you. There is a mind receiving sensory sounds and sights and smells and things like this, but they're not you. Even the thoughts are not you. This is difficult. So I did this in November, right after my 200th fight, right?
I think so.
For 3 days. And then I wanted to do it 6 months later in May, but I was too busy. There was too much going on. So I just got back to it. I did another 3 days last week. And the first time around was like heavy. I was very worried about it. But the ways in which it ended up being hard were not the ways I thought it was going to be hard, which was interesting. But I felt like I had some really big kind of life-changing, revelatory realizations on that trip. This time around, it wasn't like that, because I'd done it before, and the first time I had like all this reading material to introduce me to how to practice and concepts and things like that, and then this time around they're like, you've already done this, you don't get anything to look at. And I think that letting go of the idea that I was going to have another 3 days of like revelatory, profound understandings, that in fact it's just practice, like now you're just practicing, was surprising, but itself a very good lesson, because I've been doing Muay Thai for like 9 years now,
maybe
10 years, and I have to let go of this idea that like every day is going to be this huge leap in understanding or skill. That sometimes it's just putting in the practice. Sometimes a fight is just getting in that practice, and you're going to be exactly the same as you were in your last fight, but you're doing it again, so that makes you better, rather than it being like you're always this like visibly improved or like having these profound cosmic understandings about things.
What do you think Vipassina? Now you've done it 2 retreats, and you do try to do it during the day at times, right?
Yeah, it's hard to do outside of the center because you have to really kind of shut things out. You can absolutely do Vipassina training for like 10 minutes at a time, but it's hard to get a lot of benefit out of that when you're trying to like just sprinkle it around.
So, but what does the Vipassina state and practice, how is that connected to your Muay Thai?
My problem is that I judge everything I do. Everything I do, I give judgment to if it's either good or bad. It's not all harsh, but it's either good or bad. I either like it or I don't. The thing about Vipassina is removing that, so that you observe everything, but you don't judge it. There's not good or bad. There's not aversion or desire. Like, you're not liking or disliking. You just observe it. Yeah. That's why it's hard to do it for 10 minutes, is because you have to like you have to like wear yourself down to a point where you can just kind of like be neutral about things. This practice is really important for me because of my mental obstacles in training and fighting. When I'm judging things all the time about whether I did something well or not, or whether today is a good training day or not, or, you know, any of these things, it just gets in the way. Like, it's not helpful. It's like trying to drive your car with the emergency brake on. Like, it just makes everything this like strained, slow process. So being able to take out the time to like really get into it and like really focus on that practice, so that I can try to pull it into my daily practice and my daily like
well, how did you want
detachment.
To pull that? When you finished that retreat this time, you were like, I want to bring this into my training, like in your Muay Thai training.
That was my realization that, okay, these 3 days is really just going to be practice. Like, it's not going to be a like, oh, I realized this thing. My first time around, I had these really amazing breakthrough realizations. One of which was like, I was sweeping my porch, and there were these leaves that like wouldn't move. And instead of getting pissed, like, how come I don't know how to sweep, or like, what's wrong with the broom or whatever, I was just like, some leaves take more passes with the broom to get off the porch. Like, this is totally fine. That doesn't sound super profound, but it is to me when I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me or my kick or whatever if it takes longer for me to get it right. It's just some techniques take longer to get right.
For some people.
Some Thai words take longer to remember. Some names don't stick in my head. Like, it's just how it goes. And being neutral about that, like, that's okay. In the first time around, because I had reading material, I was learning how to understand what was correct practice and what was incorrect practice. And when I was incorrect, that was okay. Like, you just keep practicing. It was this, like, getting back on the rope when you fall down kind of thing. And so what I wanted to bring from my more recent one, where I didn't have these, like, amazing breakthrough understandings, was be okay with the fact that it's just practicing. That the practice itself is moving you.
And it's not good or bad.
And it might not even be progress, but it's maintenance, at least. Which, obviously, I've had some understanding of this whole time, because I don't stop. The reason I don't take breaks, the reason I don't take time off, the reason I don't stop, is because I do believe that just by doing it, you're maintaining or getting better. But mentally understanding that is a different thing.
It's also connected to me, a profound way to Karahat's continuity lesson, which is maybe the biggest lesson of everything that he taught you in that Karahat intensive.
Yeah.
Which is, you do not stop and reset your technique or your attack. Can you see that? Talk about that a little bit.
So this was this crazy aspect of my training with Karahat for 6 weeks in Bangkok, where the bomb that he dropped after having been teaching me for over a year, like sporadically, like every, I don't know, couple months or something, he gave me this lesson of continuity, which is like, everyone takes all these mini breaks, like whether it's you throw like a 1-2 and then stop, or you kind of like get frustrated by a moment and have to like reset, or even just like, I had an idea of how to answer that shot and then you hesitate on the answer for the next one. He doesn't have that. Like, he continues forever. Like, it never stops. It's a conversation. So in the same way that, like, you don't have to reset what you're saying when you're talking to somebody, you just continue with the conversation by responding to what they've said, thinking about it, and then coming forward and all this stuff. You do that in Muay Thai the way that Karahat has been teaching me. And at this 3-day meditation, it was like, oh, this doesn't stop. Like, this is 3 days of just watching Rupa and Nama. So that's the body and the mind. Just 3 days of just doing it nonstop. And I totally, even though I understand this continuity thing and have been working on it with Karahat, I still give myself these permissions to stop in training. Like, I don't want to think about that anymore. So, like, I punched my time clock and I'm done. Like, I worked on that. It was either good or bad, and now I'm not working on it anymore. But it's actually this, like, endless.
Are you saying
it's not always intense, but it, like,
don't use the time clock? I'm not quite sure.
I'm saying don't use the time clock. I'm saying there's no, like, okay, I kicked the bag 50 times, now I don't have to think about kicks anymore. You're not doing the kicks anymore, but you, like, flow it into this continuity of, like, how you walk and, like, how you move. Like, there is no separation between Karahat as a fighter and Karahat as a person. It's seamless, even though he's not, like, hitting things.
This goes back to one of your theories that you've had for a long time, which is that how you are in the ring and how you are in life, in order to genuinely be the way you need to be, you have to make changes in your life.
You have to work on them together.
Which is different than a lot of fighters are more like, I'm Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
We've heard it, at least in the West, maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
But that's that time clock thing. That's like in the ring, out of the ring. But
it's not. But you want to actually make changes in your life out of the ring that express themselves in the ring almost.
I think you have to. And I think
some fighters don't.
I think maybe for women especially. But
why do you say that for women? Because they don't take up space and such and such?
Because women are raised and conditioned in certain ways that do not go with being a fighter. Women don't. Some men are raised in a type of masculinity that goes well with being a fighter, like standing up for yourself, not letting people have a thing on you, like kind of this pride. Women are not taught pride, really.
Well, unless they're not their appearance or something.
Yeah, like, but even then, like, oh, really? Do I look good? Thank you. Like, it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's especially for women, but it's not only for women, is that having this, like, light switch of how you are in the ring versus how you are out of the ring doesn't work. Because being a real fighter is an expression of who you are.
Well, it could be that when you fight a lot, like if you have a 12-fight career, you could go Jekyll and Hyde and get in the ring and be a persona, right?
Sure.
An alter ego.
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that does work for some people.
Yeah.
But if you are fighting 50, 100, 200 fights, your character, the qualities of who you are become exposed, right? So that's maybe why that if you really want to get to your place of freedom, you've got to make changes in your own life.
Yeah.
At least that's something that you've found, right?
Yeah. But you also, whatever your actual mental hang-ups are in life, express themselves in the ring. And they may be a problem in the ring, whereas they're not so much a problem in your life. So, like, in my life, being shy and not wanting to stand close to people is not a problem unless I'm on a subway and then I'm just uncomfortable. Like, it's not that bad. In the ring, not wanting to be too close, that's not good. Like, I get kicked a lot. I can get hurt. I cannot do the things that I'm training, and then I'm like, I don't understand why nothing is working, and it's literally because I'm like an inch out of where I should be. My hang-up is not wanting to be too close. That comes from outside the ring. But it's a problem inside the ring. Like, it expresses itself inside the ring. If I fix that inside the ring, where it's like, I'm going to stand too close to you, that doesn't make me an asshole outside of the ring who's going to stand too close to people now. But it means that I'm way more comfortable in all kinds of spaces that's like, I can stand here. There's no downside to that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, like, shoving people
Maybe
outside
you
of the
should
ring.
be, though. Like, going through the supermarket.
Get out of here.
Samson Assange.
All right, there are questions.
Okay, good. Read the names for me.
I cannot read your name. I'm sorry, but he likes the way I say it, even though it's wrong.
Okay. It's the Brazilian guy.
Just one question more. I could literally stay here asking things all day. Yes, you can. I don't see fighters switching stances during fights. They usually enter the fight either southpaw or orthodox and stick with it, working or not. Switching stances is seen by judges as a weak move, ? I don't think judges care whether you switch stance or not. It's just whether you're capable of using that tactic well. My trainer at home does not like me switching stances because most people are not totally ambidextrous. Most people are very strong on one side and not super strong on the other. And so when they switch, they're making themselves weak for a moment. And so they can get punished for that. And I think that a lot of fighters want to keep their dominant side in the back so that they can use it as their power side. If you train switching stance, you're good at switching stance. If you don't train it and then try to do it, that's not a great idea, I think, generally. But there's this amazing fighter in America, Terrence Crawford. He's orthodox, but he likes to go southpaw for large portions of the fight. Western boxer. We were watching him where he goes southpaw, and the announcer, who's like this older dude who clearly has called a lot of fights, is just like, oh, this is a terrible idea. He's going to get pummeled doing this. It's a terrible idea to switch your stance. And he talked for like 4 rounds about what a terrible idea it was for Terrence to switch stance. And none of the things that he said happened. And Terrence won the fight quite dominantly in southpaw. But I think that there may be many trainers who would not encourage or allow their fighters to work in that because of the potential weaknesses. But then back in the day, there were more switching fighters than I see now. Karhat, Jarantong, Samart was generally southpaw most of the time, but he can switch. He considers himself 100% ambidextrous.
Also, in Golden Age technique, there was a lot of sensitivity to closing the open side.
Yeah.
So even if you weren't switching, you were very often bringing your backside forward defensively to ward off attacks.
Yes.
So in Golden Age technique, there's already a switching component that you don't really see now.
Yeah.
I think that's why you'll get momentary switches from a lot of the golden age greats, but you might not call them switching fighters, right?
Yeah. But I don't think that judges are against it in any way. It's just if you get tagged on your open side because you didn't block it, that's a point is a point. Yeah.
The rule generally is if you see someone switch, hit them immediately.
Yeah, that's what Karahat does. It's like Karahat does. You want to step there? Bam. Jirasaka, we know. A tangent to the current conversation, besides Samson, who I love watching, do you intend on adding any Muay Mat or forward fighters to the archive on Patreon? I think Pornsene is a little bit Muay Mat. He's in there.
Adding.
Someone like Wong Chinoy or Cherry. I am trying to get Wong Chinoy right now. He's not well at the moment, so he's not training, but when he's better, we're going to try to get Wong Chinoy.
I don't know where Cherry is.
I don't know where Cherry is. We can ask. Maybe Karahat knows where he is.
But Long Sawan is definitely a forward fighter.
Yeah, not Muay Mat, though.
He said war forward.
Yeah, but Long Sawan fucking crushes. It's incredible. Chris, hi. Just arrived in Chiang Mai from America, Louisville, Kentucky. Are you fighting here soon? I just left. But I'll probably be back at the end of the month. Just check my Facebook page. I will have my thing up there. Chai is watching. What the ka pinung?
Well, tell him who Chai is.
Chai is former WBC champion, he also won Trainer of the Year in Thailand 2011, but I think you should get it every year. He's absolutely fucking incredible. He's so good. And you should, even if you're not a boxer, you should come take lessons from him if you're in Thailand because of his balance and symmetry training. And if you're a boxer, it's no question, go.
And his session is on the Patreon library. It's maybe the most liked session of everyone.
You can see Chai in the Patreon library. You can see him on YouTube to check out some of his stuff, just to see kind of how he teaches, and then like get into it that way. And then we also started Sylvie Study, which is like intensive, that we started with Karahat, so it's 6 weeks of training with him, and we were training with Chai at the same time, so he'll be coming in next. He's incredible. Harry, how much do you think I need to train and fight in Thailand for a few years?
What?
I don't know. I think you're talking about money. I have no idea. You have to figure out your own budget. Chocolate. Hello, Chocolate.
Is that Chocolate?
Yep. Caitlin,
yeah.
They use it to eat space as well. Are you talking about switching sides?
Maybe walking forward. She's talking about walking forward to eat space.
Yeah. So Jirasak, maybe you came in after I was talking about it, but Long Sawan is up in Payao. So when we come up to Chiang Mai, we keep trying to get him. And maybe at the end of this month, we'll be able to train with Long Sawan. But I'm going to geek out. I'm going to be really nerdy and excited to do that. So that is coming.
Did we get our questions done there?
Yep.
So I want to bring up this one thing you don't want to talk about, baby.
We're going to talk about something I don't want to talk about. Yay!
So, has it been 6 weeks? About?
5 weeks.
Or is that, what? 5?
5.
I think it's 6 now.
No, on Monday it will be 5.
Okay. 5 weeks. You've been experimenting with your diet in a pretty extreme way.
Mm-hmm.
Ketogenic diet, which is basically very, very, very low carbs, eating predominantly fats to get the body to change the way it burns fuel.
Yeah.
And the reason why you don't want to talk about this is that you really don't want a lot of people giving advice, right? Health advice. Googlers giving you information that they've Googled.
Or asking me what should I do, because I am not a nutritionist. So I don't know.
So you don't feel like you want to tell people what to do.
Yeah.
But you do want to share your positive experiences.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
So I said that I was going to give this a 6-week shot to see how I felt. So I started eating a strictly ketogenic diet 5 weeks ago. The definition of a ketogenic diet means you're eating 20 grams or less of carbs per day. And it's not just low carb, it's high fat. So you're eating like 150 grams of fat moderate protein and then like almost no carbs. So what I've had to realize in the process of keeping your carbs at like 20, no more than 20, is that you do not eat any. Like, you basically get them incidentally by like something you're eating incidentally has like 1 or 2, and that adds up to 20 by the end of the day. But you do not like, oh, this has 8 carbs, I'll eat it. Like, no. You don't eat any. So the reason I started doing this is...
What was the reason?
I'm telling you, you interrupted me to ask me what I was saying.
Someone is tense.
The reason I started doing this is because I know that the way I've been eating is not good for me. I don't know why. Like, I have a problem with sugar. I've tried to quit sugar many times, and I've felt better when I do, but then I always just go back to it. It's definitely, for me, a problem. And I've noticed that I have these, like, crazy mood swings, and get incredibly tired, like, crashing kind of thing.
And you assumed it was because you train like a crazy person, right?
I know that it's because I train hard, but it was clearly what I was eating was not working with how I train.
At least not optimally.
Not optimally. And I know that I go into these, like... Kevin and I have a joke, we call them sorrow biscuits. If, like, I eat cookies, I get really emotionally not good, so we call them sorrow biscuits, because I'm, like, eating bad feelings. I'm not an emotional eater. I don't eat because I feel shitty, but I feel shitty after I eat certain things and then just keep doing it because it's like, you know...
A cycle.
It's like being an alcoholic or a drug addict or something. So, I had not had interest in the ketogenic diet or known really much about it at all, but we watched a documentary that's fairly new that's called Food is Medicine. And unfortunately, it's not actually a very good documentary for what it is. But it does talk about how the ketogenic diet was designed to treat serious medical disorders like epilepsy, and it's been used for autism. And the thing that really spurred me is that in the documentary, the people that they're working with have results very quickly. There's a woman who's been diabetic for her whole life, and she's able to reduce her insulin every week from the first week, which to me was so insane that it would be that fast, that I was like, I'm not diabetic, but I was like, if it can change this quickly, it means that you're poisoning yourself really quickly every day. So I was like, I'll give it 6 weeks. If it had been within 2 years we saw some slight changes, there's no way. But it was like this, if you can have results that quickly, like, stop shooting heroin and you'll have pretty quick results. I was like, I'll give it a try. So I did.
You stopped shooting heroin.
Basically, so I so bad. I felt mental results within a couple of days, which is crazy, because what that means to me is that I was doing this to myself daily, like over and over and over again, and not understanding what the really direct cause was in how I was eating. And this is, again, something that I like about the ketogenic way of eating, is that it's very unique to each person. So what you have to do is really do a lot of, like, trial and error, like, small adjustments to see, you know, how things feel. I like when you have to figure out for yourself how something works, rather than, like, I looked online and it said 40, so I'm going to do 40. Like, that's where you start, right? But then you, like, make adjustments. So I basically eat fat all the time. When I eat fat, often it's a vehicle that has protein in it, so like bacon or meat or something like this, but I also have to pay attention to not get too much protein, because that your body will turn that into glucose if you have too much. And then basically some vegetables here and there, but otherwise no carbs, other than, like, I take potassium, which has carbs, like 2 carbs in what I'm putting in. This was another thing that Kevin and I realized that is related to the ketogenic diet, but we actually discovered before starting it. Because
of dengue fever.
Because of dengue fever. I had really bad dengue fever. there are serious problems with potassium deficiency, and everyone has it. So if you start supplementing with magnesium and potassium, you might notice huge changes without changing your diet at all. Just try it supplementing. They don't make potassium supplements because there's not been a lot of research, and the only research that there was are some very small incidents of people having heart problems after it, so they just don't give potassium supplements at all. It's not
because they're afraid people will overdose on it.
They're afraid people will overdose. It would be very hard to overdose, but you still need to look up what our safe range is. But cream of tartar is potassium, so you can put cream of tartar, a little bit of salt, in like water as your own electrolyte drink, and potassium supplementation has made a huge difference in everything for me.
Well, this is very important though. Google safe limits, stay well within them.
Yeah.
Figure out your number, right?
Yes.
Like,
don't get near
but
the limits.
But some of those differences for potassium are mental differences, right?
There have been, on the ketogenic diet in general, there's been huge difference mentally, which to me is really important because now one of the things I focus on so much in my training is mental training. So basically, and I keep using this example, it's like if you're trying to get something done that requires you to be mentally stable and clear, but you keep drinking, like stop drinking alcohol and you're not hindering yourself while you're trying to do these things anymore. So my response in my body to eating high carb and sugar is like being drunk. And I have this like mental fog all the time that I just thought, I didn't like it. I could tell there was something weird about it, but I didn't know if it was like just getting older or tired or whatever the thing is. But like Kevin would be talking to me about something and I just could not follow what he was saying. This is the thing that I was like, this is crazy. Within 3 days, there was a big difference, is that the fog lifted and I just had this like clarity that I haven't experienced in a really, really long time. And Caitlin asked if I got the flu. I did not. I was very careful with taking electrolytes, but I did not experience the keto flu.
I think that being aggressive with the potassium and magnesium and salt is the reason why you did it.
Yeah, I was very aggressive with making my own electrolytes. I'm 5 weeks in, Caitlin, so I said I was going to do 6 as the test, but from what I've been feeling thus far, it's not. I have no interest in changing it. It's going to stay this way.
And I will say, as the third person...
Yeah, this is what Kevin can say about it.
The mental framework...
He's getting emotional. You guys can't see it. I'm not allowed to show it, but he's going to cry. And he's started doing this now.
But the change, it's like a person has a spectrum of emotions that they can... experience in a day. Like there's like a spectrum of color, like a rainbow. The spectrum of emotions that Sylvie is capable of feeling has completely changed. It's like a different person, really.
But it like slide scale.
The whole slide scale now is in a different part, so that the lowest feeling would have been almost a high feeling before.
Yeah.
Like that your mental outlook at the world and your own training and the own things you're doing, to say 100% different is to understate it. It's a fucking unbelievable difference, baby.
It's not like a perfect cure. Like I still have difficulties. I still emotionally have frustration and all these things. But like my mental clarity and my emotional stability after this, like in this last fight, I've never had before. I think that before 5 weeks ago, this exact fight, I would have been really frustrated and pissed and all kinds of things. Yeah. But if I were to give like an example of how this works, I think that all people very naturally, whether you're having some kind of like sugar problem or not, we wear these grooves of thoughts that we like to think. Like our brains are lazy, so we end up thinking the same things a lot. And so, like, as you're putting your work shirt on, you're already feeling pissed. It's like you hate your job or whatever. Yeah. It's kind of like that. So I think that things are causing my emotions at the gym or whatever, and they're not being caused by anything. It's that groove. Like, I've gotten into the groove. So the example I use is it's like a gutter ball when you're bowling and you, like, throw the ball and it goes in the gutter, and it's like, it's just not going to come out of that groove, and you're not going to knock anything over, and you just have to, like, find another ball. By how I've felt changes in this way of eating, it's like when you put bumpers on for kids so that you cannot throw gutter balls. Like, the ball will just bounce off the rubber and stay somewhere in the middle. I'm not, like, hitting strikes all the time. Like, I totally still have difficulties, but I'm not getting gutter balls anymore. Like, even when I start going into those thoughts that I've had before, I catch myself and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to think that right now, and I can stop.
I from third person perspective, I've seen it. I've seen the negative thought come, and then in the past, it would just tumble into a domino effect of negative thoughts that could be without end. They could go for a day or 2 days.
I'm awful.
No, you're very intense and harsh on yourself at times. And now I see the negative thought come and then literally be let go in 10 seconds or 20 seconds.
It's like, I'm going to stop holding this now.
It's amazing.
Put it down.
I think part of it is the diet. If you Google around on this diet, you'll see that there are supposed neurotransmitter changes, hormonal changes.
It's used for brain problems, basically. Like, epilepsy is a brain problem. Autism is a brain problem. Yeah. This guy, Dom D'Agostino, who, if you listen to any podcast at all that talks about keto, he's on it. He does research on divers, military divers. They have serious brain stuff going on, and the U.S. military is looking into ketogenic eating for their soldiers, because when you shift over from being a sugar burner, which all of us are, to being a fat burner, which is what the ketogenic diet teaches you to do, and the Atkins diet also does, but to a lesser degree, you can actually go without food for much longer and not have immediate consequences. So if you're a sugar burner and you don't eat for 6 hours, you've burnt up all of your fuel and you crash, and you get those, like, everyone knows what that feels like, to crash when you haven't eaten and you're traveling and all of those things. But intermittent fasting is a huge part of the ketogenic diet, and so for soldiers or for endurance athletes or for people who cannot eat on the clock all the time, you're able to use much bigger stores of energy and not have, like, roller coaster.
And so back to you,
crashing.
What have you felt about energy?
So I was anticipating having, like, a dip in my energy by changing over, and I haven't really. For, like, maybe 3 fights before this one, when I first started, I felt like I was a little bit slow. Not like I couldn't move, not like I was tired, I just felt slow. But then only one fight did I actually look slow. Yeah. Which was interesting. So I felt slow but did not look slow, which actually might just be mental. Because when you're actually in a clear headspace, things feel slower. I haven't had a hard time completing my workouts the way that I normally do. I haven't adjusted my training at all. When I went to the Vipassina meditation, I did a fast at the same time, so I was only drinking bone broth, and I actually did that to try to reset my gut. I've taken antibiotics a lot since moving to Thailand, and so I was trying to, like, help my gut, because it's been screwed by that, and it did help a little bit, but being able to not eat for 2 days and not really feel like a huge crash, like, my energy wasn't terrible coming out of that either.
In this fight, though, your energy was really good.
I'm still experimenting for myself in, like, how to eat, because the way I ate before fights it cannot be the same as the way I eat now, because the way you digest fat is longer than if you're going to, like, eat, you know, a plate of fried rice or something.
We did a test with Petampong, and then we copied it, and it worked perfectly, right?
So the day before my fight, I went and clinched at Petampong gym with the girls for, like, 40 minutes, which is hard. Clinching for 40 minutes is hard. It's an endurance thing. Definitely replicates the difficulty of a fight. But so I just ate the way that I wanted to eat, and then saw how I felt after that by going and training at Pet Dun Pung, like how was my energy, and it was good. So since it was good, we tried to recreate that for my fight the next day, which my energy and my clarity were really good in the fight. But one of the things that if you're on keto, you're going to be eating a lot of is MCT oil, which is derived from coconut oil, and it can cause some like stomach issues. So that's when I have to keep working with to figure out the timing on that, because you don't want to be having gastric problems when you're in the ring.
But I'm pretty happy that we at least got the dial turned to a pretty good area.
Like, the thing about this way of eating is you have to keep looking, like trial and error, like figure it out. If people are interested in doing this, Google can tell you more than I ever can. I'm not an expert on this. I'm trying to figure it out, so just start looking into it. But people use the word keto incorrectly. So when you're looking around, you just need to be a little bit conscious of what you're looking at. There's like a spectrum of what the diet is. The really hardcore one, which is used for treating epilepsy, autism, diabetes, things that are actually for health problems, that's the strict keto, and it's 20 carbs or less in a day, and then really high fat. You cannot do low carb, low fat. It doesn't work. You have to do low carb, high fat, moderate protein. There's also versions which are like cycling, and I think they call it modified Atkins and things like that. So you just need to look into those if that's more doable for what you're doing. But I am known for being like a cardio monster. Like I am not a medium, let's find the easiest way to do this. I do things really hard, and I do not need more than 20 carbs a day. Like I have not run into any problems of like I need to up my carbs thus far. So don't be afraid of trying it.
To me, the biggest thing is if it changes your mental framework towards a more neutral or positive spectrum, all the work you do in the gym is better work.
Yes.
Because you are coding each thing you do as use this, do this, as opposed to coding with frustration or disappointment.
Yeah.
I think it has a huge effect.
Yeah.
It colors everything.
Yeah. Joseph asks, do you mostly home cook or restaurant? I do both. It's much harder to have control out of things in restaurants, for sure. And I was vegan for 10 years, in like starting from middle school through high school to college. I was not one that's always trying to convert people, and even though I was vegan for a long time and still actually share a lot of the values that I had at that time ethically, I do not like that people talk about it nonstop. Unfortunately, this diet, similar to vegan, makes it really hard to not make other people aware of the fact of what you're doing when you're eating publicly, because you have to make so many adjustments. So if you're eating out, you just have to figure out how you can put together what you're eating out of other things. You're not really going to be able to eat like a dish as it's prepared. Although we ate out last night and it was really not that hard. We got steak and a salad and just had like the dressing put on the side, stuff like that, and it was not that bad. But cooking at home obviously makes everything much easier.
I think we cook at home mostly, don't we?
Yeah, but we do order fairly regularly, so it's like I'll get like a thing from a restaurant and then cook everything else around it, kind of thing. But it's mainly at home. But yeah, it is one of those things where like in a social situation, you're not going to keep it a secret that you're eating differently from everybody.
Wasn't it kind of also in the first week or 10 days? It felt like there was nothing you could eat. It was kind of depressing, right?
It was a bummer. I kind of felt like there was only the same 5 things to eat, and I've actually read this in doing my research. There are people who complain about how it's not a very like exciting diet. That's changed as I've been in it, because I've found ways to make things, which you just have to figure out for your own palate and that kind of thing. But I think it's also like for you, it's like the mouthfeel of fat kind of just burn out a little bit.
Too much. Yeah.
It's a little much. But being bored with my food versus like throwing gutter balls all day, I'd rather feel better, I think.
Also, another important thing on this is to supplement.
Yes. You do have to supplement on this diet for sure. Jirasak says, sorry to interrupt, but if you're looking for Pong Suri, aka Rambo, he's at the gym called Bicycle Muay Thai Gym. Where? Is that Bangkok? Rambo is in the banner picture fighting Karhat on the Muay Thai Techniques page.
Oh. What? We can look that up. Look that gym up? Is that what the...
Bicycle Muay Thai.
Do we know that? Have you heard of it?
Never heard of it.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Is that good? All right.
So, heading to Ayutthaya, probably be home tomorrow night or tonight, depending on what happens with being able to film again for patrons tomorrow. But thank you guys for being part of this live feed. Thank you for your questions. And, yeah, talk to you guys later.